Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome back to TPOG, the podcast of gaming presented by TBOG. It has been far too long since the last episode, but we are finally back with a new look, a new agenda, and lots to talk about. Apologies it's been so long, but due to some IRL family and life issues, I've had to put hosting on hold for a bit, combined with the fact that for some time now, we've been wanting to rejig the format, presentation, and more for a while. So we wanted to get the agenda in place before we continued. We're still in a bit of a restructuring period, as you can no doubt tell from the absolute state of our visual setup right now, but hopefully by the next episode we'll have everything in place. So for now, please forgive us for the large levels of jank as we record this one. Just before we get started, I'd like to announce that the current plan going forwards is to release an episode on a fortnightly basis rather than weekly. We hope that going forward this will help contribute to better quality episodes overall with higher levels of discussion, but we will of course see how things go before making any final decisions on a permanent basis. So with all that out of the way, let's get on with the episode. June is here, and with it, conferences, shows, and directs galore as the biggest and brightest of the gaming world announce what's up and coming in the world of gaming. We saw announcements, trailers, gameplay, and a whole fuckton of CGI pre-rendered trailers. And we have opinions. Lots and lots of opinions. I'm joined here today by Oecus.
Hello.
Cora.
Howdy.
Nixon.
Hello then.
And Max.
Salutations.
All of whom have been brushing up on their knowledge of what was announced to give us their insights on a big couple of weeks of news in the gaming world. So let's get started by asking you guys at large, what stood out to you the most personally as the biggest announcement of them all?
When it comes to really big announcements, I think obviously, the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, that's up there for a lot of people. I know the Persona stuff was leaked a while back, so, that's, could have been dampened for some people, but, others, probably got really excited for that, especially if they weren't in the know. I know a lot of people, really responded positively to the Yakuza reveal that was at, the Microsoft show. That was also a really big one. Just for me personally, that's the thing I'm probably the most looking forward to out of, all the shows is, probably the new Sonic game, Sonic Superstars. But, other than that, I don't really have a whole lot. Oh, yeah, there was also the Spider-Man 2 footage. I just remembered that. That was also, like, a really big thing for a lot of people. But... yeah, that about covers it for me, I think.
I think
Armored Core 6. That's my answer.
Armored Core is a bit of a weird one I found, because obviously this was announced back at the Game Awards last year.
Yeah.
Nothing really stood out to me gameplay-wise from the trailer that I saw, to be honest with you. But
That's true.
because of the pedigree of From Software, I am just willing to give it a shot, because I know they are very good at making games. But It wasn't like I looked at it and thought, wow, that looks incredible. I really want to play that. But I know they will do a good job. So I can't say from a trailer perspective it really impressed me all that much, but...
Well, did you see the 4-minute kind of gameplay coverage where it covered like a little bit of a mission, a mini boss, and then a final boss reveal where it showed like the scan mechanic, some of the maneuverability, some of the modularity, I would say, with the customization of your, mech. Obviously the trailers itself were, there was a little one, I think it's Vidya covered that pretty extensively because he was there in person for the full mission gameplay and talked a little bit about the HUDs and stuff like that. I know as a virtue, a lot of these trailers lack really any substance, so that's the only reason why I would even bring it up. Same with, I think, Final Fantasy 16 had a little bit of a reveal outside of the actual trailer that made it look very promising.
I actually didn't even know they had an extended gameplay thing. I actually have to go back and watch that because same thing as Para. I'm interested in the game just because of From Software and playing Elden Ring recently and Sekiro a while back has me, interested in their type of games. Even though this seems a lot different than the typical Soulsborne they're known from.
Yeah. It's kind of being viewed as a hybrid between the old Armored Core and the new Souls-like mechanics, where they're trying to take a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B to kind of put a new coat of paint on the IP, I think is how they've been describing it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I kind of feel like if it was the exact same reveal they'd done as they have done, but just the From Software logo wasn't there, I don't think anyone will be talking about it. I think it would just be like, oh, it's just another sci-fi third-person shooter game or whatever. I don't think anyone will be talking about it at all. But because of the pedigree of... Maybe this is me being overly cynical, but because of the pedigree of the developer attached to it, it's getting that reception, but I genuinely do not believe it would be talked about all that much, if not for that.
Yeah. Well, no one would buy a painting of a soup can if Andy Warhol's name wasn't on it.
No, it's a very good analogy. Yeah.
But yeah, I have to again agree with Para on that, because if it was just some random Japanese game, I would not care because I'm not a mech person.
It's like the only dev, one of the very few devs I feel like you can just like outright trust anymore. Like there's so few of them left nowadays. All of them are fucked up at some point or another.
Yeah.
So beyond that, obviously, Nixon, was there anything that stood out for you in any of the conferences that you want to discuss?
My absolute favorite that I've been waiting for a long time is Payday 3, which is coming in September. And from watching the gameplay trailer of it, I'm extremely hyped on what they're going to expand on the Payday genre. Because the second game had a lot of lackluster animations and lackluster things because it was made with a really big budget, or budgeted, I mean. But this seems like it's trying to shoot for a completely new height, which is going to be incredible for the game, I would presume.
Payday is just one of those games that, like, I'm going to confess I don't know a great deal about it, but it felt like one of those games that was never going to get a sequel. Like, they were just going to keep bringing out DLC for the same game over and over. So, what actually, I don't remember a lot about the trailer. What actually is different about this one?
Essentially, from what I know, they have a completely new engine for the game, so the graphics are a lot better, the actual gameplay is more fluid, it doesn't lag so much. There's all the maps are completely new. They don't bring back the old maps. There's a whole new story mode aside from the story mode that was in Payday 2, with expanding from where Payday 2 ended. All the abilities, all the skill trees, all the enemies, everything is basically revamped and upgraded from Payday 2. It's a very small trailer because it's just like a small reveal. But from what I can see or what I've seen from it, it's done a lot more with everything, and it's way more fleshed out than Payday 2 ever was gonna be.
Fair enough. Sounds like a pretty well, kind of what you'd expect from a sequel, really.
Mm-hmm.
And before I get into my game, I actually want to circle back to Max, because it's something that I've been wondering since I saw the reception to Sonic announcement being big. What exactly is making this a big announcement? To me, it just looked like the regular classic Sonic game, but chibi.
See, like I said, it was big for me personally. I wasn't saying it was big, like, on the level of, like, a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake or anything like that. No, I mean, just big for me personally is in, oh, this is a thing that, like, I will probably, like, actually play. Like, that kind of big. Not big as in, like, oh, wow, this is going to be, like, big major headlines kind of big. I mean, and it did get a good amount of coverage, but you get what I mean by that, right?
Yeah,
What
I
was
get
the
what you're
community
saying.
reaction? Oh, yeah, sorry. What was the community reaction from the Sonic fandom then?
Well, it's the Sonic fandom. It's always going to be mixed.
Gotcha. Right, yeah.
All I know is Black's reaction, or for our viewers at home, Black's another member of our community, TPOG, but he was like weeping tears of joy. Like he's just any Sonic news and he's so happy. That's basically all. That's the only reaction I'm aware of, but he seemed quite happy with what he saw, at least.
And then for me, personally, I thought Persona was going to be the biggest news because it was leaked. And Persona 3 is probably the game that started me down on my RPG love. But it was actually the announcement of Metaphor, which I could not have imagined would be announced, considering it's been 7 years since its announcement. And they barely have given any updates. They've barely shown anything about what the game would be. The art direction, they showed a little bit during the initial announcement. And the game is looking very Shin Megami Tensei-ish, in my opinion, from what they have shown. But I do think it has its own flavor and style, especially since the art team, the main lead character artist from the recent Persona series, the composer from the recent Persona series, and lots of the team is on Studio Zero, which is making it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looking through these images, I can definitely see the Persona 5 art inspiration, especially in the menus.
Yeah, the menus to me look very interesting. It follows that same thing that Persona 5 did, in my opinion, of making menus not boring.
But this does give me a fairly important question I need to ask you, Oecus. Do you think it's going to
Yes.
win Best Art Direction at the Game Awards?
I don't see anything else competing against it, at least in 2024. I think it had at least around. Actually, no, I don't think this one had a release date. 2024 is for Persona 3.
Yeah,
It says slated for release in 2024 on this article from Polygon.
Oh, okay. But yes, it's gonna win. To answer your question.
I mean, I guess that's a. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just. This is really completely well. It's related, but I went to go and like look into the game, and I just typed in metaphor into Google, and unsurprisingly, it didn't come up with the game. It came up with what is a metaphor. So,
I had to type out metaphor game.
Metaphor Atlas.
yes,
Yeah,
Atlas.
that
That.
works
Thank you, Max. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, hang on. Metaphor Atlas. Okay, let me see. Yeah, Metaphor Refantasio Atlas. Alright, let me see here. Not saying too much about a release date. I could just add that to the search term.
Just says coming.
Yeah,
2024.
Polygon saying it's later for release in 2024. Game Rant saying the same thing. Dexerto saying the same thing, and yeah, you get the idea. Nothing specific, just 2024.
Yeah, nothing hard.
I think is something I kind of wanted to address for a lot of these conferences and stuff. I didn't notice many things announced for this year. There was a lot of 2024 stuff, but I didn't. I don't think I can recall, other than the Metal Gear Solid ports. I can't recall anything that was announced for like the back end of this year. I don't know if anyone else can correct me on that, but
I can only think of DLC that was announced for later this year, like the Cyberpunk and Destiny are the two that comes to mind.
yeah.
Sonic Superstars is supposedly in autumn of this year.
I think a
okay.
lot of the indie games were also for 2023, from the PC gaming show.
There's at least Oxenfree 2 should be releasing this year, which I'm personally really hyped about because I loved Oxenfree 1.
Yeah. Just interesting. I just wonder if I don't know. I just wonder if some of these publishers may be playing their hands a bit too. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. It's just I maybe we're looking at a fairly bare back half of the year, unless I'm forgetting some major releases. Other, I guess Starfield is probably the big one.
Yeah, it'd be Starfield as the headliner.
There's a new...
I don't know if you would call this a major release, but Persona 5 Tactica is apparently coming on November 17th.
Oh, good point. Yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know if I would call that a major release personally, but I have to. I love like XCOM style games personally, so I'm well into that.
Mm-hmm.
The new Assassin's Creed game is supposed to release in October.
True.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mirage.
And Star Wars Outlaws.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that this year as well?
I would have to recheck. No, sorry, 2020, early 2024.
I was gonna say that didn't look ready for release based on what I
Oh,
saw.
the
It looked like it was
Avatar
well up.
game, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, December 7th.
You know that I with Avatar, it's kind of like I'm not the biggest fan of the franchise, but I can recognize that there's a lot of room there for a good video game. But I am so worried it's just going to be another Ubisoft collectathon. Like, it's just got that energy all over it for me.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2
what
is
was-
releasing in October as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the Rayman DLC for Mario plus Rabbids, that's also for later this year.
Yes, I actually completely
Yes.
forgot they made a sequel to that game.
Yeah, and that they showed Rayman DLC for it at the Ubisoft show.
Yeah. And am I wrong in thinking this is like Rayman's first appearance in a new game for quite some time?
I do not think you're wrong about that, honestly. I think there was like Rayman Legends, and I think then he was in Brawlhalla, and he had a spirit in Smash, and I think that was about it for like 5 years.
Oof. All right, well, Return of a Legend, I suppose, but in a very unexpected format, I would probably say.
Yep.
So, Per, what was your highlight?
It's very... Anyone who knows me knows what the answer will be, but it's Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. The thing is, it's like... if anyone's been following Metal Gear Solid, like, rumors, the last main entry came out in 2015, which was the Phantom Pain. Now, there was Metal Gear Survive, which, let's not talk about Metal Gear Survive, but even that came out 1 year later, 2016. It's been a very long time without Metal Gear Solid games, which, to be fair, I think a lot of fans were fine with because the series kind of reached its conclusion point. But there was rumors swirling around for so long now about remakes, and the rumors kept cropping up and, you know, appearing every VGAs, every Summer Games Fest, every E3, whatever it might be. And at a certain point, you just shrug them off and say, like, oh, yeah, of course they're remaking MGS. You know, of course they are. You're like, you know, next you'll be telling me that, they're remaking Red Dead Redemption 1 as well. And to actually have it happen was perhaps even more like just that shock of it actually being real after all this time was like, that was probably more my highlight than the game itself being remade. Just the fact, like, oh my God, someone was telling the truth.
So I gotta ask, do you think this is them testing waters just to see if a new team can actually carry the Metal Gear Solid name?
They're testing the waters, but I only think for more remakes. I don't think... Maybe this is me giving Konami too much credit, but I don't think they would make more sequels or anything. I think they want to get this one. MGS3 is the most popular of the franchise. I think it's definitely the best game to remake. I think they will probably, if this succeeds, they might do like a Capcom thing with Resident Evil, and they might remake MGS4, 1 and 2, and the obvious ones everyone wants them to do is Metal Gear 1 and 2 on the MSX games. But I think it's just testing the waters to see if there's interest for basically a remake of the entire saga, as opposed to just like continuing the franchise. But again, maybe that's me giving Konami too much credit.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me because, like, I think a lot of people's big hang-up about, like, more Metal Gear Solid games coming out is just the fact that, Kojima hasn't been there in a long time, and, he's kind of the face for, how the Metal Gear stories and stuff go. So, I can see Konami being like, okay, this is a big cash cow franchise, we want to make more stuff out of it. But, at the same time, we don't know if people will really buy more stuff out of it without Kojima on board. So, what if we take the Capcom approach where it's like, hey, these Resident Evil remakes are doing really well. How about we do the same thing with Metal Gear? I could see them sort of thinking that.
Yeah, it does seem to be a more frequent thing, and I think Resident Evil is perhaps the pioneer of it, but like Dead Space is another good example, came out earlier this year. It's a high-quality remake. Is going to sell. As strange as it may sound, they're going to sell well if it's a beloved franchise, and it will bring new people into the franchise. So it's definitely something that's growing and getting more like steam going forward, I think. But I think more specifically, it's very well done remakes. Like, there's been so many lazy ones over the years. I think people perhaps have become a bit cynical about them, but if you could see these like Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, hopefully Metal Gear Solid Delta, these really good high-quality remakes that don't just bump the graphics up, they just improve the game in many different ways, quality of life improvements, that, yeah, we're gonna see a lot more of them going forward, I think.
Hooray!
Speaking of remakes, I just remembered they also had a trailer for the second part of the Final Fantasy VII remake that's going to be on 2 discs.
Yep, saw that
Did
as
you
well.
know it was going to be on 2 discs? I didn't know it was going to be on 2
Um,
discs.
They showed it like right at the end of the trailer, like and one of the screens they show at the end where it's like available on 2 discs. It was something like that. I don't remember the exact wording, but
Yeah,
yeah.
Or
I know,
800
I know.
gigabytes.
Yeah, that intrigues me because like a PS5 disc can hold quite a bit of data. So what the fuck are they putting in that? Seriously, what the hell is going to be in that? It requires it to be 2 discs. That's
The
mad.
launch codes.
I don't know. Do launch codes need to be a lot of data? It's just a few numbers and letters, right?
Yeah.
The thing I'm wondering is based off of what they shown between that and the original story, because I remember, I could be wrong, but the current remake slightly added new elements and changed the story slightly, which made people think that was like its own universe.
I doubt it's going to be anything significant.
I never
Right.
finished it myself, and I never played the original, so I can't say. But I certainly got the impression it seemed like they were heading in a different direction.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the impression I got from other Final Fantasy fans who played it. I mean, I don't really have enough experience with it to tell, but yeah, I can sort of see this being almost like sort of a reimagining approach to the story. Again, if what I've heard from fans is true. But,
We need to ping
again,
Toby. He'll know.
Oh yeah.
Or Black. I think he watched it at least.
Yeah.
All I know is that they need to keep the best girl alive. That's all they need to do for it to be a hit.
Right.
And that's Jesse.
They're not gonna kill Yuffie, right?
So
I think we all know it's Air.
So, I know it's probably not the general. It's not a big cup of tea for a couple of our folks here, but I do think we should touch on it. Obviously, Starfield was a massive part of the announcements, and it had its own direct dedicated to it. Granted, it was like slapped right on the end of the Xbox One, but 40-minute long thing. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched about 20 minutes. Did anyone watch it and coming away from it, did you feel any differently about it than you were before? Are you interested now if you weren't before? Anything like that? Does anyone have any thoughts on that since it had such a big presence?
Yeah. I definitely feel better about it, but it's still a Bethesda game. Like, I fully expect to land on a planet and just fall through it at least once.
I was just drinking my water there as you said that. Yeah, I can definitely picture that. Like, just
Right.
I'm just kind of hoping it'll be like, it won't be, but like, it'll be like Oblivion NPC dialogue on the planet, but with aliens instead. you'll just land on a fucking planet and it'll be like, so what's new with what's going on Earth? Nothing I'd like to talk about. Bye.
Well, speaking of Oblivion, you saw that they brought the Adoring Fan back,
I
right?
did, yes, and
Yeah.
I know it's just nostalgia baiting and pandering, but I can't help but love it. It's just the fact it's the same voice actor as well. Like I'm pretty sure the voice actor does like all of their projects, so it's not exactly hard. But the fact they brought him back and got him to do the voices, I quite like that.
Yeah, there wasn't anything that really blew me away. I just felt like it looked more competent this time. Obviously, there's been more time. And I like these shooter RPGs. Like, I enjoyed Fallout probably a little bit more than I enjoyed vanilla Skyrim. Or I should just say vanilla Elder Scrolls. So
I think that's the
here's
thing you
hoping.
can always guarantee with Bethesda's games is even if they are broken or buggy or whatever, the modders will save it. They always do.
Bless their souls.
The unsung, well,
For me,
perhaps very sung heroes.
Yeah.
I've never been big on Bethesda type RPGs, so Fallout, Skyrim, and all that. But I do see that from the trailers, it does look like a quality game. But it just feels like that same element, which is not a bad thing, of their traditional games. It basically looks like No Man's Sky times Bethesda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that it seems to me I'm not interested in it basically at all, because to me it just seems like Borderlands without actually being funny.
That's a take. That's an
I
interesting one.
mean, yeah, I didn't get that vibe. It's definitely a game that you should not pre-order
Oh god, no.
because
No.
it's gonna be like we'll know it's a good game or not depending on 7 days after release how long the bug compilation video is. And if it's less than 15 minutes, we're okay. We'll make it.
Yeah, this is the thing. There's always the ongoing thing about Todd Howard's Sweet Little Lies, and you have to be cautious. I feel like Bethesda games is like even their best ones come with like it's like they were made by being wished by a monkey paw. Like there's an asterisk. Something isn't right all the time. It's like, you know, Skyrim is. It's not. It won Game of the Year. It came out. Check out our Game of the Year video for my opinions on that. But like, it's. I think it's widely regarded as being not like a world, like a legendary game, like one of the greatest games of all time in terms of quality, but it had enough in it and had enough memorable moments and parts and stuff that to make it very much immortal in terms of like gaming culture. And that's kind of where the Bethesda kind of specializes. But on the other end of the spectrum, you get like Fallout 4, for example, which not a bad game, but I kind of feel like it left very little to no cultural footprint really in the gaming landscape. So it feels like with Bethesda you get one or the other, and there's not really a great deal in between. With me, in my experience, anyway.
Yeah, at least Fallout 76's bad was memorable. Fallout 4 was just mediocre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being a bit disappointed by it. It's like, again, like I said, it's not a bad game. It's just, like, that's the best way I could describe Fallout 4.
It's just kind of there.
It is, yeah. Like it just seemed to lose a lot of what the charm wasn't there for me.
Like I'd play it, but I wouldn't replay it after it.
No,
I'd probably still have fun, but I wouldn't have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I played Fallout 4 once, and that was it. I played Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Between them, I played like 14 times, like trying out all the different stuff. Fallout 4 I played once. Maybe that was just because I was getting older at the time, and I just wasn't replaying games the way I used to. But yeah, no desire to play it again. Hopefully Starfield is not the same. Hopefully it's breaks the mold a little bit, because my god, I want Elder Scrolls 6 to be really good. We've waited damn long enough for it, you know. I mean, what is it? It's 12 years now. God knows when it's actually going to come out. So yeah, hopefully
16 times the detail.
yeah.
We're gonna need 4 times the size of Skyrim.
That is a bit. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but I've got a bit of a bugbear about that. It's just like, just because the maps are bigger doesn't mean they're better.
Yeah.
I mean, Fallout 4's map is big, but it's like completely fucking empty. You walk for miles without anything happening.
Yeah.
Also, from what I'm reading, apparently Todd Howard said that it should have a feeling of Red Dead Redemption 2 Starfield. Those are some big shoes to fill.
Yeah,
I'm wondering in what tone, like in what aspect.
Yeah, I'm wondering what he means by that exactly, because I could take that several different ways.
Like, is there going to be a lot of like hunting and crafting in there as well, or like just going to be memorable side quests, or are we going to get dead aim back, baby?
I think the way I'm going to choose to interpret it is what he means is having like a very living, breathing open world that feels like it's living without you. Because to me, Red Dead 2 very much felt like that. It was like I was in the world and I was making changes to the world, but if I wasn't doing anything, the NPCs were going about their daily lives. You could follow them around. They were going to doing their jobs and all that sort of stuff. It felt like a living, breathing open world with the encounters and stuff like that. And maybe that's what he means, rather than having something a bit more static like they've had in the past. But
well, he also did say, and it's like I'm living in a Western fantasy about Red Dead, and so in this you're living in this science fiction explorer fantasy, and sometimes that's being on a barren planet and nothing is going on.
Fair.
Gaming.
It is Fallout 4, but in space.
Oh no.
Just like real astronauts.
For me, I expect some realism. Maybe that's what he meant, because I personally haven't played Red Dead Redemption, but from my understanding, there was lots of elements about it that felt more realistic, like the infamous horse in the winter.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna get dong physics in Starfield.
We're gonna
Did
have,
Tommy
like-
say anything about that?
We're gonna have massive alien balls.
Yes.
that
Pretty
respond
much right
properly
now.
to low gravity.
Zero G jiggle physics.
I really hope that's what he meant. just. A bit outside of like the announcements and such themselves, I wanted to ask a bit of a question about how you guys felt about like. I don't really know what I feel like we need a name to describe not E3 because that's basically what it is. It's not E3. But how did you guys feel about the whole period in general compared to what we used to have with E3 before the pandemic days? Do you like the direction the presentations are taking? There's obviously a lot less fluff in them now. They're not live. They're just videos. There's no crowd. Well, with the exception of SGF, which had a crowd. Obviously, a lot of them had quite distinct styles. Like SGF had interview segments, and well, others were literally just trailer after trailer after trailer. How do you guys feel about the sort of direction that this sort of period of time in gaming is taking going forwards compared to what it used to be when we were a bit younger?
I mean, I definitely think it makes sense from the company's perspective because, okay, you could spend like tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a presentation, at this live place that, where all the users come to that, or you can do your own event using your own brand power where people will watch anyway without spending nearly as much and, without having to do it live in front of thousands of people. And, when you just say it like that, yeah, it makes perfect sense for game companies to do it that way. On the other hand, just from the consumer perspective, it really is nice to just have, all your big announcements for each company, sort of in one place, at a time that you can sort of realistically predict other than, oh, sometime generally this month. So, I mean, it's definitely mixed for me. I mean, I will say I think just from the nostalgia perspective, I kind of prefer the E3 days. But speaking practically, I think this probably makes a bit more sense.
We're in the gaming version of a broken home, and we've just had our 4th Christmas.
How that's dark. That's dark.
But is it wrong?
No, I get what you mean. I think for me, like the aspect I miss the most is the live audiences. Like I'm a big proponent that audiences make anything better in terms of having that real world in person visceral reaction. And when something's announced that's like really big and really exciting, adding that reaction from the audience could be so important. Now, going back to what Max said, I get why they don't do it. It costs money to hold in-person events. You've got to hire security. You've got to, you've got to sell tickets. You've got to do all this sort of stuff. But I think that is a big missing for me, and it adds a lot to the atmosphere of what used to be E3. Obviously, think back to like Woo Girl, for example, the infamous Woo Girl and the Bethesda conferences and stuff. She's still talked about. She's still brought up every year because it's Woo Girl, man. Everyone remembers Woo Girl. She just wouldn't shut the fuck up. You just don't get moments like that anymore. So I miss that. I have to say on a specific level.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing, I think it was like, a journalist who was mentioning this, like I think on Twitter, how, one thing they miss about the E3 days compared to now where everyone's doing digital presentations is, when every company was doing in-person events, it was much easier to get access to people you could actually interview about stuff. But, now it's, obviously everybody doing digital events, it doesn't give you that same opportunity anymore. So, there's that, just from the journalistic perspective, I guess.
From a business perspective, it's probably quite a good networking event as well. Can't really do that anymore.
So speaking onto that, I don't know if you guys remember, well, I'm pretty sure you do, but after the conferences, they would have like 2 to 3 days or even on the same day where the show floor room was open, and then you would usually get more in-depth interviews from people at GameSpot or IGN speaking to the developers. And sometimes they might even show extra gameplay. Or let's say there was a gameplay trailer that showed during the conference, you would actually see gameplay during those show floor segments.
No, yeah, I never engaged in that a huge amount myself, but I that was also a good thing. Like, it kind of felt like there was this like live thing going on, wasn't there? Even when, like you said, even when the conferences were over, there was this thing going on, and I could go on IGN or Twitter or whatever it might be and turn on a live stream, and there's just like a 12-hour long live stream where they're just going to different booths and interviewing different game developers and stuff, and that was cool. You don't really get that anymore.
And then the second part for me is that I felt like it forced the big three to actually, compete in their conferences. Like, yeah, Sony had the state of play and it did have a big announcement like Metal Gear Solid. Nintendo, I don't think they did anything. I could be wrong, but I feel 100% sure. But around that time, I remember thinking, okay, who's gonna have the better conference? Or you would see heavy hitters, after trailer after trailer. Like it honestly felt like they were trying to announce more than they are now. I feel like lots of the things during this year were just updates with a few standouts here and there.
Yeah,
I don't fully agree. Like, I don't need more games. I just need good games. And the only thing that really matters was that it was all at the same time. Like, I missed almost every single one of these live showcase and had to just watch them all in the back. So I didn't get any of the showmanship, and I don't really care for much of the showmanship either. Like, it all just feels kind of hokey. I just want to see the content.
two sides of the same coin. I could see both sides for sure. So,
I mean, there are like rumors of Nintendo possibly doing something, but there's always rumors of Nintendo doing something. That doesn't really mean too much. So I mean, I'm not ruling out the possibility of them maybe doing something later this month, but yeah, so far they haven't really done anything.
They do tend to announce directs quite soon before they happen, don't they? Like, it's usually like a couple days before.
Right. I think the idea is to make sure that companies can't like prepare anything to compete with it that day or something like that. Because if you announce it too far in advance, a company could be like, "Oh, okay, we can just try to pull your numbers then." Which, no, they don't want to risk that. I don't think.
One thing I do kind of miss is that Nintendo always used to be like the last one. It was kind of like the dessert, the swan song of the E3 of a particular year. It's kind of like you watch Xbox, PlayStation, Bethesda, Square Enix, whatever it might be. Nintendo was always the final one, and then it was like, okay, it's over. Now let's digest everything. And the thing about Nintendo is, more often than not, their directs kind of slap. I'd say on a consistency basis, they're better than the others are generally. So they almost always ended on a high note. So I do kind of miss that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, did you guys have any special highlight games that weren't a part of the conference that you saw announced outside of a conference? For me personally, it was Resistor, and I've been wanting a racing game in my life for a while now. I think the last one that I bought was Need for Speed Unbound. It was the last one, and it did hit the marks for me. They announced the Crew 2 Motorfest. Well, they didn't announce it. They showed more gameplay, and that was nice. But Resistor gave me that old feeling of Burnout that I've been missing, and they plan on mixing it with RPG elements. So it's a racing game with RPG elements in terms of storytelling, I guess, and that has me excited.
I haven't really been paying attention to anything that was announced outside of the conferences this month, but if you don't mind me bringing up a conference that we haven't really touched on at all in this discussion, The Apollo Justice collection that was revealed in the Capcom showcase, like that caught me out of nowhere. But I'm like, hey, I'm good with it. More people get to play these. It's nice to have these, not just trapped on mobile platforms anymore.
Was that the one where they're releasing it on PS4 and Xbox One, but not PS5 and Series X?
Maybe. I mean, I can check. Hang on.
I'm almost certain I saw that, and I found it the strangest thing because if it's coming out next year, those consoles have been out longer than people realize. They came out in the end of 2020, so they're not young consoles anymore. And
they still have no games.
Yeah, they are the collection is listed for Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Windows, and Steam. Not Series X or PS5.
Yeah, it's weird. That's really weird.
Yeah.
But
I mean, maybe the idea is these. Are the Series X and PS5 backwards compatible? I wouldn't know firsthand. Are they?
PS5 is compatible with PS4. They're fully backwards compatible. Yeah, to the previous generation.
Okay, then I guess I get it. It's like, maybe they don't want to spend more on an extra version when it's basically going to look the same anyway. And if owners of each system can play the game regardless, then I can sort of see the idea behind it.
Yeah, marketing to the lower common denominator.
Yeah.
Supposedly a new Alan Wake game is coming as well.
Oh yeah, Alan Wake 2. We saw some footage of that, yeah.
Yeah, it has some really great graphics. Did not expect after playing the original Alan Wake games.
I find with those sorts of games, they are hard to sell in a trailer. Because so much of it is about atmosphere, right? And the building of the horror and the tension and dread, which is not always the easiest to convey in like a 2-minute trailer, whatever it might be. And I do remember specifically the Alan Wake 2 trailer, it didn't have a lot of substance to it. It was basically just walking through a forest. She goes in a building, shoots one person, comes out, and that's basically it. I think it's kind of hard to convey that sort of stuff in a trailer, so I didn't really jump out to me, but I do like Remedy because I really liked Control. So I'll keep my eye on it.
For me, I didn't see anything really outside, but I did see some games that I hadn't been keyed in on that that looked interesting. Both games had things that looked promising, but they also had things that like kind of annoyed me. So I don't know if anyone saw Immortals of Avium. It was a like magic first-person shooter, which I liked the spell modularity on it. So like different spells had different effects, but in the trailer, it had that Josh Whedon Marvel writing where every single time a protagonist opened their mouth, it was a one-liner, and I wanted to rip my hair out. And I go, am I just gonna have to play this game on mute because I can't? Like my limit for this is at its end, but it still looked good. And then the other one, pair I was talking to you earlier about, which was Lies of P, which was the Pinocchio Dark Souls, which kind of is more like a Bloodborne Sekiro because his left arm is like the Sekiro prosthetic slot. It reminds me a lot of the like French Revolution game.
What?
There was another one where it was like a robot maid in the French Revolution, and she had like leg attachments and stuff like that, which had like a really good premise, but lost its steam because they didn't have enough enemy variety as the game went on, and the story was kind of weak. So I'm curious to see if this game can overcome those kinds of flaws, and then also obviously to harken back to what I said earlier, they walked away from the jargon of the Souls, like the groggy bar and groggy mode.
I don't think that's going to catch on. We were discussing this before you guys came in, but yeah, it's they basically they're trying to essentially carve out their own thing in terms of like status names and things like that, and it sounds hilarious. Like, what was groggy? It was basically like stun, wasn't it?
Stagger, yeah.
Stagger, yeah. They call it groggy mode instead.
It's like when you hit them in groggy mode, their little health bar goes white, and you just go groggy on them. Like, stop it! Stop saying those words. They don't mean anything anymore. It's gibberish. And then their upgrade system was called the P organ, and I just started laughing for like a minute. It's like, upgrade your little Pinocchio boy with using P organs. I was like, what does that mean?
I do wonder if in this Pinocchio game you'll get a chance to actually do something about the enslaved children being turned into donkeys. Because that's
We'll see
always
how much-
that's always bothered me about the movie. That's always bothered me. Like they just kind of skate over that.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't remember the movies. Well, what?
No, like, there's
Don't
like an
remember
entire
the-
segment
yeah.
where they're at like the carnival and they're
Yeah, the
turning
kids.
boys into donkeys.
Yeah, they're all drinking beer and they're like 12 and they start like turning into animals and yeah, is that the one that's run by like the
Uh,
wolf or is that a different?
No, there's like a fox that like sort of like charms the boys and gets them to come to the carnival. But I think it's
Almost
just
like the certain top hat, right?
Yeah.
yes, yeah. But it's basically just a big fat Italian man who's in charge, from what I remember.
I feel like in 2019 everyone had like a collective Pinocchio fever dream in the creative world because there's been like 6 Pinocchio IPs in like the last 5 years and I wonder if they all had like the same dream.
I mean, there was three movies last year alone. That's the thing. Like,
One of them won an award.
The live action Disney one, the Del Toro one, and there was that one where everyone kept posting the part of the trailer where Pinocchio's like, "Father, when can I go out on my own?"
The Pauly Shore clip, yeah.
Yeah.
So those were the ones that like caught my attention, but I saw that there either was a direct flaw or I had a perceived concern about like if it could carry its own steam.
well, we'll all be rooting for Pinocchio in this one. I think he's he's not had enough attention recently, so it's nice that he's getting a bit of the spotlight put on him.
Where's my Dumbo game?
That one's the most problematic Disney movie. Are you kidding me?
I was gonna say they're not going to keep that authentic to the original.
No, absolutely not.
Oh wait, which Disney movie are we talking about?
Dumbo.
Wait, didn't they already do a live action Dumbo
They
remake?
did, yes, and it's barely got anything to do with the original at all.
Because they had to cut out like 60% of it.
Well, no, this is the thing. It's not even cutting out. It's basically a different movie. Like the
That's
story is completely different. It's not the same at all. I can't even remember why I saw it, but I think my parents paid for me, so I didn't pay to go and see it. But yeah, it was not terrible, but also like it's if you hadn't put the Dumbo IP on that, it would have just been a generic flying elephant in a story. You know, it wouldn't have been a Dumbo story, or at least not the Dumbo we know. But yeah, I think we've got slightly off topic.
Yeah.
But
A little
yeah, let us know, chat. Like, which Disney movies do you want to see turned into weird video games?
Into Souls Lakes.
yeah. What Disney movie would make a great Souls like? I'm a Basil the Great Mouse Detective kind of guy. You know.
Personally, I want to slay Cinderella Elder Scrolls style.
Whoa.
Well, yeah.
Like you're just running around with glass slippers, like stabbing people in the eyes.
Yes.
Wow.
And Max was mentioning the Capcom showcase. The only Capcom game that actually surprised me. Well, you already know that I am a weeb, but
No.
I like.
What?
Go ahead.
I love seeing the Japanese visuals and stuff like that. And on a visual standpoint, I think the new game they announced, Path of the Goddesses, looks very colorful and interesting. And I'll still need to see more gameplay than what they've shown, but the visuals alone has me sold on that game.
Am I gonna regret looking at this?
Path of the Goddesses.
Yes, I'm not pronouncing the first part
Oh,
of its
the-
actual
It's
Kunitsugami,
Kunitsugami, right?
Yeah. I remember this one
Yeah.
now.
Oh right, the not Onimusha game.
The one that looks like Neo 2 but isn't Neo 2.
pretty much.
Not to say that you're not allowed to use this aesthetic, but it looks like a brighter Neo 2. Yeah, that's a pretty nice art style. It's less weeby than you pitched it. I thought this was going to be more like a What's a good example? I'm losing my mind.
Code Vein.
Code Vein or Project Nexus, something like that. I think that's what
Oh,
it's called.
Scarlet Nexus.
Scarlet Nexus, thank you. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be one of those was like the flat shading, like anime girls. And it's like, oh, it's the Path of the Goddess. But no, this looked pretty good. Or it was.
There seems to be a bit more of a desire to explore sort of Japanese mythology recently, right? Don't know whether it's just me, but it does feel like it's becoming more of a popular aesthetic now.
Yeah, I think they got upset that Ghost of Tsushima beat them to the punch.
This is the thing though, because Ghost of Tsushima is kind of grounded in reality. It's not like a mythological thing. It's based on
It's
real
got a
history.
little bit. Got a little bit of stuff like
I was thinking more of like Sekiro, okay, not just Japanese, but like there's you could think of things like Wolong, for example. They do Chinese sort of stuff like let's call it East Asian mythology. But yeah, there seems to be more of a desire to dump into that. I guess you can only really take Greek and Norse mythology so far. Eventually, you have to branch out.
Right.
I mean,
Unless
they
you wanna
have the
do Russian.
Jade game coming out.
Where's my Korean mythology horror game? That would actually go kind of hard.
I don't know any Korean mythology, would it?
Well, I mean, they've got the Kumiho. That's sort of like the Korean version of a kitsune. There's also they've got these goblin-like things in Korean mythology. Those are also pretty dope. I don't know too much more beyond that, but I mean, that already seems like you could make something work out of it.
I feel like I've brought this up to you guys before, but have I ever told you about the in Japanese mythology, there's like a sentient roll of cloth that floats up to you and basically smothers you to death. Yeah, I want to fight that. Like, it's just a little mob that's a sentient roll of cloth floating towards you. I'm all for that.
Yeah, we'll need the American mythology. You need to fight like chupacabras and like the Jersey Devil and the Mothman.
Sasquatch and stuff like that. Yeah.
Sasquatch.
Yeah. I when you said American, I thought, oh, you're gonna go like Native American legends and stuff. It's like, no, it's just folk tales.
No, I just meant like weird stuff that like people drunk on moonshine saw in the Appalachia.
Interesting segue there about moonshine and American mythology. There was a game that stood out for you, wasn't there? Sorry, Oecus. The South of Midnight, I think it was called. You seemed quite like that.
Yeah, so the art style of that game, well, I forgot what games the developers have previously made, but none of those were games that I played because clearly I can't remember them. But the art style of the game just reminded me of, I'm probably gonna butcher the dude's name, but Gil Matoro or something like that.
Guillermo del Toro.
Gil del Toro.
It's you're.
Yeah, like that type of.
He likes to be called GGT.
Yeah, everyone butchers his first name, so I just say Del Toro.
Yeah, Guillermo.
So it gave off that aesthetic to me of that animation style, and I like Southern mythology because it's very close to Haitian in the sense of voodoo and all that stuff. So I do find it interesting.
Yeah, it's Creole, right?
Yeah.
It looked. My first thought was Louisiana, but maybe it was Florida.
It's anywhere in those
swamps. From it. It could be like Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, wherever, somewhere in that area.
Yeah. Somewhere with crocodiles. Or alligators. Which one of the two? Both? I don't know.
It's gators.
It's gators. Yeah. Okay. So was there anything you guys feel we haven't gone over in terms of some of the stuff that was talked about? I feel like we may have been missing a couple of bigger ones. Although I must admit, I'm struggling to think any off the top of my head.
Yes.
I'm also struggling to think of anything.
Bungie announced a new game.
Oh yeah,
they did. Yes.
Marathon, right?
Isn't that like a remake of the game before Halo?
Yes.
I'll confess to being
But so far, reports are saying that. Yeah, reports are currently saying that it's going to be an extraction shooter game.
Yeah, I did see that.
Strange.
Oh yeah, I also just remembered Sony also had a trailer for the live-action Twisted Metal series. Woo!
Oh God, no! God. Oh God, I think we could do an episode on that trailer alone.
Yippee!
Maybe.
Let's go into it though, because I think there's some work to be said. I'm going to assume the overall feeling was it did not look good.
I mean, I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other, but why isn't his head on fire?
Yeah, there's that.
Oh, yeah.
I think MT's reaction. So again, for viewers, MT's a former member of our group. He's a big Twisted Metal fan. His reaction was it was not good. He was not happy about that.
He was upset.
Yeah, he was upset. He was offended by that trailer. It was mostly around the use of the thong song, from what I remember, and like Sweet Tooth singing it. So I must admit, like following that trailer, I went back and rewatched the cutscenes from the 2012 game, and I'd thought to myself, like, this would make a really good TV series if they did it right. Like it's got some fantastic like psychological horror elements to it, as well as just some basic slasher horror, and it looks like they have not gone in that direction at all. It looks like they have. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend I'm the biggest fan of Twisted Metal in the world, and I understand it like as well as MT does, but it doesn't look anything like the games as I understand them. So, who knows what they're doing with that?
Yeah,
especially coming off the back of the Last of Us TV series, which was such a faithful adaptation. It's kind of disappointing to see.
The only thing that I was going to bring up was that we didn't really touch on any of the Ubisoft stuff, so the new Assassin's Creed or Star Wars Outlaws. I know that like there wasn't a lot of detail, especially in the Assassin's Creed Mirage trailer. There was only just the blurbage that they were going back to basic stealth-centric gameplay, which is kind of a return to form, but kind of a separation from what has kind of given them a recent resurgence. When you look at the successes of Odyssey and Valhalla, and this is still technically part of that story arc, continuing on from the modern day main quest line, which I thought was actually implemented quite well. So I'm curious to see how this new fan base, who's kind of come to expect a more action-oriented RPG, will feel about a more puzzle-like, stealth-centric gameplay design.
Yeah, I think we kind of went over this before we jumped on to do the recording, but I'll just rehash what I said. I am concerned about how well the classic Assassin's Creed style is going to translate to modern audiences and modern gameplay, because I think I'm talking like AC1 to 3. I think even something as far back as Black Flag was quite fundamentally different to those earlier games, because it was so much more combat focused and so much more focused on just straight up fighting and the naval combat and stuff, obviously, whereas the first few games had a very distinct style in terms of how to approach missions and how to think you would avoid fighting at all costs. Well, in theory, you were supposed to avoid fighting at all costs. The fighting was actually hilariously simple, but you were very much encouraged to do stealth, and I feel that is very much a product of its time, and I am concerned how that's going to translate to modern, like just a modern gaming landscape. Maybe they'll implement it fine, but I just have a feeling maybe people's nostalgia may be stronger than what they actually want. I don't know. I'm not wording that very well, but yeah, I think you get the idea.
I just want them, if they're going back to this old style, to just give me I never played the Assassin's Creed. Played
Oecus, I'm going to have to stop you there. I'm not
multiplayer.
I don't know if you guys are the same, but I got none of that. Like, I just got like one or two
I
words.
absolutely agree, though.
I heard
agree
Assassin's
100%.
Creed, and the rest of it was like robot noises.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I agree.
Your signal is
I
like
understand both.
not great. It's kind of like sometimes most of the time you're fine, and sometimes it does sound like AI is taking over.
Relegate him to the quiet corner.
Yeah, it's starting to rain here.
That was fine. We heard that. Why don't you try repeating what you said?
So basically, I was saying, I wonder if they'll bring back multiplayer.
Multiplayer. Okay.
Okay, I could sort of decipher that. I wonder if they'll bring back multiplayer.
Ah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
I did catch that much. Yeah. All right. That'd be interesting. Maybe. I mean, I don't remember if the previous two games were always online or not. Because that's just kind of a thing. So I don't see why you couldn't implement a multiplayer. I don't know. We'll see.
The multiplayer was I only played it in Revelations, but I remember really enjoying it. It was it's one of those multiplayer. I think we've probably all had experience with games like this where you jump into the multiplayer of a newly released game and you can tell immediately it's not going to last very long. They may not even necessarily be going for like a live service thing, but you can tell immediately the player base is going to drop off very, very quickly. I mean, just to clarify, every multiplayer game player base drops off quickly, but sometimes you can tell it's just going to die within less than a year, and like they're going to shut down the servers. And I immediately got that impression about Assassin's Creed's multiplayer. Like it's fun, but once the gimmick wears off, you really don't have much reason to keep coming back.
Uncharted multiplayer.
No, you are 100% correct. That's a great example. Uncharted 4's multiplayer was really fun. The grappling hook was real cool, but you had no motivation to keep playing. Absolutely none at all.
Yeah. And the other big Ubisoft reveal was the outside of Avatar, which I don't really have a lot of comments on because I don't really care about that IP either, was Star Wars Outlaws, which had a 10-minute reveal trailer that showed actual gameplay. And my overall impression was that I thought it was good. It looked very promising. I liked how they had space battles. Speeder chase looked pretty good. It looks like there is some interactability that you have with the maps. Obviously, the explosive barrels, hallmark of any game at this point. But it looks like you can move like platforms around mid-combat and stuff like that if you were near levers. So maybe that's just for certain levels. Who knows? But it looked pretty good.
We'll see. I'm always cautious with Ubisoft, but fingers crossed. Maybe it'll be done all right. Their games aren't bad, and there are some good ones. There's some gems in there, so let's hope it's one of the rare good ones, one of the rare great ones.
Ubisoft games seem to always have that they're like all very, very playable, but they're always really plain. Or tend to be, at least for the most part.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. They definitely went through this period, I want to say 2013 to like 2018 or something like that, where every franchise kind of became the same thing, and they're like, it's like the equivalent of having, I'm trying to think of a good food analogy. Just trying to think, like, it's like having cornflakes for breakfast. It's like, they're all right. They do the job. They ain't nothing special though. Like you're not gonna starve. You're gonna have an okay time. You're gonna have energy for the day, but you are not gonna be talking about it again in 6 years' time than you would if you were having like a nice, delicious, bacon and eggs or whatever it might be. They're just that. Yeah, they're like that, and I have no reason to believe this is gonna be any different. But I hope I'm wrong.
I think I also have a sort of idea for why, for example, Assassin's Creed kind of went down the path that it did, of like being just not as much about Assassin's Creed, but just being like an open world RPG. And I think it's from the success of games like Witcher 2 or 3. Because it is very evident that they share like a lot of things, like the big open worlds, and the cutscenes are all very, very similar. And I hope they get out of that, because I don't think Assassin's Creed will ever fit that kind of a box.
Well, that's what Mirage is, right? It's complete opposite of that. It's back to the way it was before.
Yeah. I really hope they don't fuck this up.
It also felt like when they released all those little like micro games that they blew their load with all the settings that they like went to. Like, wasn't there like...
I genuinely, you put me in front of a microphone, I'll talk about Assassin's Creed Chronicles for a full episode on my own. I those games, my god, I've got a lot to say, but yeah, please go on.
That was I was just doing a bit to get you riled up. But that's it's part in joke, part in truth. I think that they like assassinations in the Peloponnesian War. You're like, why would I do that when I could kick people really hard?
Mm.
I use that Spartan kick so much. Like, I feel like there's just a lot more fun to be had in the past couple games where it wasn't assassination focused and it was more focused on just fighting. So maybe this will be a return to form because Baghdad seems like a pretty good location. I also would have accepted Istanbul because that's like kind of the start. Oh, that's where the word assassin comes from.
They did an Istanbul game already, though, didn't they? Well,
Do
Constantinople,
it.
but yeah.
Yeah, do it again.
Well, yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
Well,
It's why
Do it
like
again, but better.
I always thought like an ancient Rome game would be really cool, but they've already done a Rome game during the Renaissance. But yeah,
Yeah,
apparently they're making a new Prince of Persia game.
I did see that. Yeah.
I am.
I didn't play the old one, so I wasn't like hyped or anything. But at least it's there for somebody.
At least it looks like it's not just a ham-fisted attempt at a cash grab. It looks like it's actually attempted at making like a proper game.
At least you tried.
Isn't that the one that's being made by like a smaller studio?
Not sure. At least Ubisoft themselves have posted the reveal trailer. But could be that the actual game is made by a smaller studio and they're just like IPing it.
as I understand it, I don't think there was a trailer for it at this one, but the next big mainline entry is Japan one, isn't it? And that's a bit more like Odyssey and Valhalla, and that's probably where the effort's going. I think
They're gonna ruin Japan.
they're gonna ruin Japan.
For a fact, I'll be getting it.
Hell yeah, Sengoku Jidai again.
It's one of those things. It's like back in the day, it was like everyone was asking like, do Japan, do Japan, do Japan, and they just never did. I feel like they've left it too late. They've left it far too late. Like they had lightning in a bottle. They wanted to wait, and they just it's that lightning is now like a little spark. You know, it's a spark in a bottle. Yeah, I think they've left it too late. But again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's fun. But yeah, I think the time has passed.
Yeah. I'll get quick to play Assassin's Creed again if they turn it into an isekai.
Of course.
Well, I'm gonna love Elden Creed.
How else am I supposed to live that as a ninja?
God damn it. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, so I mean, is there any last things anyone wants to talk about that we haven't been over? I know I kind of asked that question already about 20 minutes ago, but is there anything? I feel like we've done a pretty extensive coverage here, but is there anything that might have slipped through the cracks? I actually do have one quick thing I do want to mention. I didn't touch on earlier with the Metal Gear Solid stuff. Obviously, Delta Snake Eater is the big one, but the fact they're bringing the old games onto new platforms is a big victory for game preservation. I don't because I think you guys are probably aware because I've spoken about it in the past, but the Metal Gear Solid games are very inaccessible, and there's a big problem with the fact that many of them could only be retrieved on hardware that is only a couple of generations old now. Like if you want to play the whole series, you have to have a PS3. Metal Gear Solid 4 still locked to the PS3, like it's not moved out, but now that the original trilogy are moving towards modern consoles and the PC, crucially the PC as far as I'm concerned, and we know there's more coming. That's a volume 1, there's a volume 2. The rumors are that that's going to be Portable Ops, Peace Walker, and Rising. I don't know why they would do Rising because it was already, well, on modern consoles makes sense, on PC not so much, but the fact they're bringing these games to modern consoles and stuff, I think, is a massive win for game preservation because there's been big issues with accessing those games. So being able to get those for me, on Steam, but also on PS5 and Xbox Series X and whatever is going to be fantastic. So I just wanted to point out a big W for the games industry. That is for me. But does anyone else have anything they wanted to mention before we wrap up today?
The absolute last thing that I didn't want to bring as like an actual big point was because it's like a very, very... It's not going to be anytime soon. It's going to still be like a really late release. But apparently there's going to be a completely new Mass Effect game.
Oh yeah, they announced that ages back.
Yeah. no clue when it's coming, but
Well, I mean,
pretty
we're still
pretty
waiting,
hype.
we're still waiting on Dragon Age 4, which was announced a very long time ago, and it's
Yeah.
not, and it won't be coming out until after that. So
Yeah.
yeah, BioWare, one of their studios are taking forever. But again, I love Mass Effect, so whatever they bring out, I'll give a go, and hopefully it's good.
I hope the fact that it's taking forever means that they are polishing the game to be really, really good.
I hope so too. Let's not have another Andromeda launch. Andromeda, I'm going to go on the record as saying I actually quite like Andromeda. I think it's a pretty good game, but I played it many years after launch, so I kind of have that benefit of being able to say that all the bugs and stuff were mostly squashed. But let's hope when it does come out, it's as good as the original trilogy. Oh, we appear to have lost Quick, and
Rip.
my thumbnail has gone all whack, so our viewers get a lovely view of what you guys can see. Oh no, he's back.
Yay!
You didn't see that, viewers. Just ignore it.
Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Yeah. My final one that I think is funny is Microsoft Flight Simulator Dune expansion. I'm not gonna play it. I just think it was funny that they made it.
Wait, what was the expansion again? It was Dune, right? Yeah.
It was
No,
Dune, yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you said like doing, like he was doing an expansion.
Sorry, Dune.
Sorry.
Dune. Yeah, we can see sandworms and shit. I guess that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
If you're into that.
Is it a new game? Like I was confused by that because it's called Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I was a bit confused as to whether it was like an expansion or a brand new game.
It reads to me like an expansion or a free content update. So I think like when you open up the game, you can pick like Earth or Arrakis, I suppose. Which is kind of neat.
Well, I guess we'll find out in 2024 when Microsoft Flight Simulator comes to a console or PC near you. Day one on Games Pass. We are not sponsored by Microsoft, by the way. Just I wish we were, but we're not. Anyway, if no one else has got any last few bits to get out, speaking now or forever, hold your peace. I think we can leave it at that. I've had a nice, thorough discussion of everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much for tuning into that one, ladies and gentlemen. We will return in a couple of weeks' time with our next episode. Don't know what it's going to be yet. We'll have a bit of a vote and have a bit of discussion about it and come up with some ideas. Did anyone want to put out any ideas now for our lovely viewers to whet their appetite or what we might talk about?
Assassin's Creed Chronicles.
Don't put me through that torture. I'm going to take that as a no then. Other than that. But yeah, we'll have a think about it, and we'll obviously let you guys know close to the time, and we'll have a nice discussion about that. But again, thank you very much for tuning in. I've been Parasloth, and this has been Oecus. This has been Oecus.
Certainly.
Okay. But bye. I don't know how to do a quick impression. This has been Cora.
Oh, goodbye.
This has been Nixon.
See ya.
This has been Max.
Ciao.
And I have been Parasloth, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.